Hello, welcome to my garden. Today I'm going to plant my tomato plants, and I have 10 different varieties of tomatoes that I'm growing this year. Some I am going to use for salsa. I would like to make a bunch of salsa, so I looked up and I discovered that plum tomatoes make good salsa. So I have fat plum tomatoes and black plum tomatoes. I have a variety called Carmelo, which have good flavor for sauces. So I make a lot of our tomato sauce with really all of our tomatoes, but I was told that Carmelo have good flavor for sauces, so I use those in there. One of my favorites for just eating raw is called Marvel Stripe, and it's like an orange with yellow stripes on it, and it is delicious for eating just plain. I've got some old-fashioned red. I've got black, red, and yellow cherry tomatoes just for picking and eating, which are delicious. So I'm gonna get to planting. Now, like I said before, I will bury this plant up to here. I'll take these leaves off and dig a hole deep enough for that. Or sometimes if it's a really long one, you can dig a trench and you can kind of lay it down like that, and then just the way that it grows, it bends up toward the sun. is all done, and so I thought I would give you a quick tour of the tomatoes. These are my plum tomatoes, and I just left some of the containers behind the plants so I would remember what they are before I get real labels on them. And they're really small right now, and I will probably have to prop them up a little bit with some string. I labeled all those. Those are a different variety over there, so I wanted to make sure I remembered. And then this is just a stake thing that I put together, and I'm going to put twine in between the stakes to hold those tomato plants up. I did have one casualty while I was planting, and there it is right there. I broke that off when I was trying to put it in. I also planted some cherry tomatoes on the outside here, so when I walk into the garden, there's 4 plants of cherry tomatoes right there, so it's easy to just come and have a snack. So today I'm going to be planting my pumpkins, which are right behind me, and I have a variety of different kinds of pumpkins here. One of them that I planted this year, I saved the seeds from a pumpkin that I bought at a store, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on how the previous year pumpkins were cross-pollinated. So the pumpkin that I bought at the store was a red and orange pumpkin that had some stripes on it, and I grew these seeds that I saved last year, and it ended up being an orange pumpkin with yellow stripes. So still a cool pumpkin. But when you're saving seeds, you just have to know that you might not get exactly the same fruit that you got from what you saved because of how they cross-pollinate. Now I did decide that I'm going to put my butternut squash with my pumpkins, and I saved those seeds from last year, so we'll see if they turn out to be butternut squash with a cross of something else, or if they do turn out to be the butternut squash. One really cool thing about growing pumpkins and squash upright like this and not on the ground is that the gourd, actually the stem is thick, so you might think that it would get too heavy and fall off the plant, but the stem gets thicker, and so it is strong enough to hold the pumpkin on there. That's why I can do the watermelon on the tripod, because the stem will get thick and it'll hang there and be fine, I hope. If not, if you try something like this where you're going to grow vertically, you can always try to support your pumpkins or squash or watermelon or whatever with something, some type of fabric or something. But in my experience, last year I grew pumpkins over a ladder, which I might add in here as well this year, and the pumpkins just hung and they were just fine. pumpkins are planted. One thing I did want to mention was that I did leave these out overnight to harden off. So I had put them out on the deck a couple of days so that they could get used to the being outside in the wind and in the sun. Usually when you do that though, you want to take them in at night, put them in the shade, and then let them gradually get used to being outside. So I had put these out here last night, so I know that they are good and they'll survive now that I planted them in the ground. I did have one that snapped off and broke, seems to be like the pattern, but I think that's probably okay. I tend to overplant and then everything gets really crowded, so I just saved a little bit of the space in my pumpkins.